Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, Global Strategist at Yuanta Securities. Mr. Yu, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon.
Well, we've seen oil prices rise as high as $120, $130 a barrel in trading. Now they've actually come down quite a bit in just the past day or so. For the moment, we're at 110 or so, maybe a little lower. But with all that's going on, it seems there's still the risk of much higher prices for oil, which would not be good for Korean industry. What impact do you see oil prices having on the Korean economy?
Right. If you look at the oil price volatility, it's extremely high. As the U.S. prohibited Russian oil to be imported, that caused the oil price to jump to as high as $130 per barrel on Thursday, the March 8th. Right after that, yesterday, if you look at the oil prices, it has fallen by about 12%, which is the biggest drop since November. Now it is trading at around $110 per barrel or so. The reason for that is because the UAE called for an OPEC plus countries to boost the production faster to ease the turmoil in the energy market. If we see the oil prices rising this much, then it will cause a huge discrepancies and uncertainties of the economic growth. And that will cause eventually the oil producing countries to be suffering in a long-term basis. So therefore, we are expecting the continued increase in terms of the oil supply. U.S. is also considering to increase the shale gas productions because obviously they're not going to be importing the Russian oil. So overall, this is affecting the Korean economy as well. As you know, Korea is heavily dependent on export and manufacturing-based economy. So if you look at the energy prices rising, which we import 100% of the oil from other countries, that causes quite a bit of importance if the price goes up by $10 per barrel plus. On the basis of a $10 per barrel rise, the estimation is that the Korea's economic GDP growth rate falls by 0.3 to 0.4 percentage point, which is quite significant. So Korea needs to increase the dependency in the other renewable energies or other solutions, which Korea used to have quite a dependency on nuclear energy. Now we think that the recapturing of that energy sources is expected to happen. But in any case, in the short term, higher oil prices definitely negative news for Korean economy.
Right. We did hear President Moon talk about nuclear not long ago. Looking at Wall Street now, stocks closed higher for the first time in 5 sessions. Falling oil prices helped investors perhaps a bit more risk on and hoping for a diplomatic resolution to the war in Ukraine. What's the story in the global equity markets?
Yes, if you look at the U.S. market yesterday, it sharply risen by about 2% for Dow and 2.5% for S&P 500 and 3.6% for NASDAQ. This is all happening because quite a lot of positive news are coming from Europe as well as U.S. And the war front. If you look at the Europe had decided to, or they're actually planning to increase the bond selling in order to support the huge budget for defense budget as well as energy investment because of this uncertainty that's happening as Russia is having this war with Ukraine. With this, we are seeing quite a bit of interest happening on terms of the risky asset, particularly the energy sector investment. A lot of people are expecting that to be rising quite rapidly, particularly on the renewable energy side. So we did see that having a positive implication, and also a diplomatic talk between Ukraine and Russia is expected to improve in the future as the U.S. is forcing quite a lot of the rules for Russia to be having this kind of talk more aggressively in the future. All in all, we do think that the uncertainty is going to be remaining for the time being. However, the direction is such that U.S. as well as European country will be providing ample support for the overall economic growth rate in terms of global scale. The fiscal policy as well as monetary policy will be in a positive direction in order to help out this negative implication from the war.
Well, now, following the presidential election here in Korea and the win by the conservative candidate Yoon Suk-yeol, Korean stocks closed quite a bit higher today. Among the biggest companies, some strong gains for a few names in particular, like LG Energy Solution, Naver, and Kakao. Tell us about the domestic market and how you see the election playing into today's trade.
Yes, if you look at the Kospi, it was up by 2.21% today. Kosdaq is also up by 2.18%. Quite a bit of recovery that has happened. But however, though, Korean market has been suffering quite significantly due to this war and also the huge jump in the energy prices. We are seeing the double bottoms happening in terms of Korea. With the election passed, we do think that the election-driven rally might be happening over the next 6 months or so. Usually when new president comes in, Korean market tends to rise somewhere between 5 to 9% on average. So we do think that the implication of this election is definitely positive for the overall market. All in all, we are seeing quite a bit of future changes in terms of the policies, in terms of the monetary policy as well as the fiscal policy side. We do think that quite a bit of focus in terms of the high technology investment will be made in the future, and also in terms of the property market, regulations-wise, we don't think that it's going to be that significant in the future in order to improve the overall transaction volume. That will result into some of the prices to gradually fall, which means positive in terms of the trading volume as well as the uncertainty in the market. We do think that a lot of the sectors will be affected because of the new president. In terms of how that will be played out, we need to watch and see in terms of what they will be doing in nuclear energy side and also other sectors, including the IT sectors and auto sectors, etc. With the relationship with China and U.S., we need to see how the new government will be playing their roles in terms of having relationships between these two power countries. In terms of the Korea's economic growth rate-wise, we do think that positive policy will be coming through in order to see the economic growth rate to be raised in the future. Right now, there's huge uncertainty because of the higher oil prices and energy prices.
Got it. All right, Mr. Yu, we'll look forward to following all of that with you. Thank you, as always, for coming on and sharing your insights with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.